Yesterday we were talking about air masses. Today we are going to be talking about what causes severe weather, and a lot of that has to do with different winds and air masses. We're going to start reading. Sometimes the water cycle can lead to severe weather. Severe weather includes thunderstorms, tornadoes, and hurricanes. We're going to be actually starting with thunderstorms, so make sure that you do have your notes out for Chapter 8, Lesson 3, and then also have your book open to page 238 so that we can begin reading. What kinds of severe weather happen in your part of the country? In Wisconsin, we see thunderstorms, tornadoes. We don't see hurricanes, but we see blizzards and the thunderstorms are probably more so than the tornadoes. But then hurricanes are ones that we would never see in Wisconsin. Just having very high or low temperatures can be dangerous. And if you think back to 2 years ago, we actually had off of school because it was so cold. It was unsafe to leave the house. So it's something like that, that it wasn't a storm, but it was still dangerous. If you know that severe weather is coming, you need to prepare for it. Thunderstorms can form in different ways. Often, the first stage of a thunderstorm I lost my spot. Often, the first stage of a thunderstorm has strong, quickly rising currents of moist air. Clouds grow as moisture condenses in the rising air. The clouds have both ice crystals and water droplets. So you can see this would be the first one. Everything is all air currents move upward, and it's causing those clouds to form. Is where you kind of start seeing those maybe at like the beginning of the day, but that's that first stage on there. So we can write that down in our notes. So the first stage is strong, quickly rising currents, and in storms, you sometimes see it in the summertime where those clouds form very quick. It can go from sunny to cloudy and rainy very quickly. But then all air current moves upward. We are going to continue reading. In the storm's second stage, precipitation starts to fall, which pulls some air down with it. The storm has now both upward and downward moving currents. So this is where we see the second storm. You can probably see it more closely on your page, but this is where the rain starts to fall, and it could be a little bit windy because the currents are going both ways. So precipitation begins to fall, which brings down air with it, or pulls down. Air currents are mixed, which means they're going both up and down. Whereas these ones are just going upward. And then we go to the third stage, and we can fill that out. All the currents are moving downward, and we'll read about that in the third stage. In the storm's final stage, all the currents are moving downward, and the clouds get smaller as precipitation falls. So if you've ever looked outside during a thunderstorm, you might see that the clouds get a little bit smaller as the rain starts to come down. Remember that the condensation and precipitation of thunderstorms are parts of the water cycle. So you can see it. And you can see that the cloud is just starting to get smaller as the rain comes down. So just looking at the sky of a lightning storm, because with a thunderstorm you have lightning. So reading through different areas of a thunderstorm cloud have either positive or negative electrical charges. And we don't obviously see these in the sky, but that's what's causing that the lightning. So this may be caused by the precipitation colliding in the air currents of the cloud. So when the rain might collide with the air, that's sometimes what can give them different positive or negative electrical charges. So different areas of a thunderstorm cloud could either have either negative or positive charges. Lightning is a large electrical spark moving between areas of opposite charge. So when those opposite charges happen, um, lightning is that charge that's in between them. Lightning can warm air to 30,000 degrees Celsius in a fraction of a second. So as quick as you can snap your finger, lightning can heat up the air to 30,000 degrees Celsius. This high temperature causes the air to expand so rapidly that it makes vibrations in the air. We hear these vibrations as thunder. What we see as one flash of lightning is often many flashes of both positive and negative charges going up and down. And that's kind of what can cause the different parts of the, like maybe one big lightning bolt, but then multiple ways. So just looking at that, lightning is a blank electrical spark. It is a very large electrical spark, one that would be very dangerous to be around. So it's moving between areas of opposite charge. All right, moving on. Then lightning often hits tall objects. If you cannot get inside of a building during a thunderstorm, move away from trees or high towers. Stay low, but do not lie on the ground. The negative charges on the cloud cause positive charges to gather in the ground below. So you see that big mix can cause some very big storms. And then as far as the watches and warnings go, this might be something that you see on TV while a storm is happening. So a severe thunderstorm watch means that severe thunderstorms with high winds and hail might form. So it means, hey, we might have a storm, but might not. Whereas a thunderstorm warning means that thunderstorms have formed and you should get inside or prepare for them as soon as possible. So a warning means thunderstorms have formed. And you should get inside and prepare. In Wisconsin, the biggest time we have these big thunderstorms is often in the summertime, and generally in like the later parts of summer when it's a little bit warmer, like July or August is when we see these big thunderstorms. The next one we are going to look at is tornadoes. Tornadoes are another severe storm that we see happening more often in the summer months than any other time, maybe in the spring, but we do not see them in the winter time. That would be when we see blizzards with the snow happening. But we're going to begin reading on tornadoes. Many things happen as a tornado forms. Layers of wind in a storm blow at different speeds or in different directions. So getting that down, so layers of wind in a storm blow at different speeds or in different directions. Between these layers, a column of air starts spinning like a log rolling on its side. Then upward winds come, lift one end of this spinning column. Downward winds push down on the other end. This spinning column of air is called a funnel cloud. It is called a tornado if it touches the ground. So it is called a tornado only if it touches the ground. A lot of times we say there's a tornado, but it's really just a funnel cloud if it doesn't touch the ground. We'll say if it's not on the ground. So you can see down here, this kind of helps how a tornado starts, is that how it's saying it rolls like a log, that it's more of a side wind, and then a really, really strong wind will put it on its side like this and becomes a funnel cloud. We're going to continue reading. Tornadoes usually last only a few minutes, but they can leave a path many kilometers long and hundreds of meters wide. Winds in a tornado move at hundreds of kilometers per hour. These winds can move cars and buildings around with ease. So if you've ever seen the movie The Wizard of Oz, in the movie Dorothy's house gets hit by a tornado and up and moves, and that's something that actually happens a lot. And really, really bad tornadoes is that the wind is so strong it can lift a car or a house right out of the ground. If you hear or see a tornado warning, take shelter right away. It is best to go into a basement. If you cannot go into the basement, go to a closet or a windowless room in the center of the building. Why do you think it is important to stay away from windows? It's so important because that wind is so strong that it can easily pull away and break windows. So if you're near those windows, it's a possibility that you would get hit by the glass. So going on to the last part of our notes, it says tornadoes usually last only a few minutes. They're not very long. So if it's touching the ground, it might only be, 1 to 3 minutes, but it can leave a huge path. So far we've gone through the thunderstorms and tornadoes. Our last one is going to be hurricanes. Hurricanes get their energy from warm ocean water. Right away, I'm going to write that down because that seems like it's important to know. Hurricanes get their energy from warm ocean water. And that tells me that the water needs to be warm. So, one, we know we won't have it because we are not by an ocean, but places that have oceans would really only get hit with hurricanes if the water is warm, so usually only in those summer months. Hurricanes are more destructive than tornadoes, and we're going to read why. So, going on, when water vapor from the ocean condenses, it releases energy. Under the right conditions, this energy builds and drives the winds of a hurricane. Once it is over land, the hurricane's energy is reduced. So a hurricane is going to be the most dangerous before it even hits the land. Even though the swirling winds of a tornado or of a hurricane are not as fast as a tornado, the winds are more destructive. Why? First, hurricanes last for days, possibly hitting several locations. So those hurricanes can hit a bunch of different places, or they can just last for a couple days, whereas a tornado only lasts for a couple of minutes. So they last for a couple days. and hit multiple locations. And this doesn't always happen. Sometimes they're, not a couple days, and sometimes it's just one location. But it's usually a little bit longer and multiple locations. Second, a hurricane is hundreds of kilometers wide. Um, we saw that a tornado can be huge, but hurricanes are usually also quite big. So hurricanes are a little bit bigger. And then lastly, hurricanes can cause flooding. So because of all the ocean water going around, it can cause flooding, and along with hurricanes often comes rain that can cause flooding. So they can cause a really big problem for all the people that are living by the ocean. Heavy rains also can cause floods in areas farther inland. My sister, who lives actually by the ocean, she is 5 hours driving from the ocean. And when the coast by her got hit with a hurricane, she actually had rain for about 5 days, even though she was 5 hours away from the hurricane. And that's how much the storm can kind of affect is, hundreds and hundreds of miles long. As far as preparing for a hurricane, I'm going to have you read that on your own. Just because we don't have to worry too much in Wisconsin about preparing for hurricanes, even though it is important to know about that if you are in a place with hurricanes. I'm going to go right away into our worksheet. This first part is just giving you a definition of the 4 different types of storms we looked at. Then we're going to go to the true and false. A severe storm warning means that severe thunderstorms have formed and people should get inside. So a warning means that storms have formed and people should get inside. So that means that would be true. Different areas of a thunderstorm cloud have positive and negative electrical charges. So it says different areas could have either positive or negative electrical charges. Again, this is true. Hurricanes usually only last a few minutes. Going through that is a hurricane can last for a couple of days. So we know that that's false. Tornadoes are the ones that can last a couple of minutes. When water vapor from the ocean condenses, it releases energy that can build into a hurricane. Let's just look. When water vapor from the ocean condenses, it releases energy. Under the right conditions, this energy builds and drives the winds of a hurricane. So this is something that is also true. On number 9, your notes sum up the steps of a thunderstorm. There's 3 steps that happen. So that will help you with number 9. And then you've got these top 4 on your own, and then you're going to be all set for lesson 3.